Hey guys, and welcome to another PixLab's Tutorial Tuesdays. So it's been a little while since I've done a video, and I do apologize for that. I'm off at the moment and I have a little bit of time on my hands, so I thought I would do a video for you guys today. I'm going to try and keep it short. I'm not going to take up too much of your time today because I would like to do maybe two, maybe even three videos over the weekend while I am home and I have the time, so that I can keep these videos coming on every Tuesday. So for those of you who have been eagerly waiting for me to do these videos and doing a new one this week or last week, uh, thank you for your patience. Let's get right into it. So today I'm going to be covering the particle system in Unity. Now we will be doing some very basic things, so don't expect to create the most amazing particle systems today. What I want to do is I want to walk through the particle system with you guys. I think a lot of people have been with Unity for quite some time, and for those of you that have been with Unity or have been using Unity for quite a while, they used to have a particle system called the ellipsoid particle emitter, I think. So if I can just find that really quickly, um, effects. They had legacy particles here. Ellipsoid particle emitter, a mesh particle emitter, particle animator, world particle collider, and a particle renderer. Those were the components that you required to create a reasonably attractive particle system. I think it was with either late Unity 3, I think Unity 3.5 might have introduced it, or early Unity 4, I'm not too sure. They introduced the new particle system object or component, which is one system that handles everything from rendering to animation to external forces and all of that sort of thing in your particle system, which really made it much simpler to create particle systems that were not only efficient but also look really good. So I think a lot of people have struggled with the new particle system as it has a lot of capabilities, a lot of functions. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to create a brand new particle system by clicking on game object and then going down to particle system, and that'll create a new particle system in the world, which I'm just going to zero out because for some reason it's put it at like 1,000 on X. I don't know why. Okay, so you'll notice that that is just in front of the camera right now. And this is our particle system. Now we have our rendered view at the bottom and a live preview at the top, and it's not very good looking. So a lot of people struggle with setting this up so that it looks like something, and instead of just a normal emitter that shoots up into the air. So once you have this, there's a couple things to note. In your scene view, you have particle effects pop up in the right bottom corner, which allows you to pause playback and you can sort of see which way everything's moving and where they're going and where they end up. And it just gives you the ability to pause your animation or effect and see what it looks like mid-frame. And then you've got your playback speed, playback time. These are very basic little controllers just for you for editing. They will have no effect on your actual gameplay in the game view at the bottom. So if we open up our particle systems on the right side in the inspector panel, and I'll show you really quickly what we've got here. So first of all, we have a particle system component which has been attached, or it's a script that has been attached to this game object. Then we have the actual particle system settings, which is general settings for the entire particle system. These are settings like duration, whether or not it should loop, start delays, start lifetime, start speed, start size, start rotation, etc. Then you have the emission property, which is the rate of emission, and you can also set up bursts for explosions, etc. Then you have the shape, where you can actually change the actual emission shape, which, as you can see, I'm changing the cone's basic top part of the cone, and it'll project differently in different directions. So there are also some options there, and I'm going to be covering some of these. Now, I'm not going to cover all of these, but a lot of them, once you understand one of them, you'll be able to apply that to any of the other variables that you can change down here. So we have velocity over lifetime, limit over lifetime, or limit velocity over lifetime, force over lifetime, color over lifetime, and so on and so forth. A lot of these things will come in handy once you start creating really cool effects. So, okay, before we go into this and I show you how to do this, I'm going to show you what ships with Unity. So I'm just going to deactivate my particle emitter. It's still there, but I've just switched it off in the inspector panel. So let me show you what came with Unity. So let's just see here. I should have the particle systems. So in the standard assets pack that comes with Unity, if you download it, you have a whole bunch of prefabs that you can use that are basically particle emitters or systems that have been set up by the Unity development team or some asset creators for you to use, and they are pretty good, and you get quite a few. Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What's that? 9. Okay, so you get more than 10, maybe even 15 of them, and they really are quite useful. I've used quite a few in my projects, but you'll find that in some projects you need to maybe, you know, get your own style going on. You don't want the ultra realism, or you don't want it to be, you know, very abstract. You want it to be somewhere in between. Then you have the freedom of creating your own particle system, which is really useful. So I'm going to show you a couple of these. I think this one's quite cool. So that's called Afterburner, and which obviously, as you can see, is a particle system that basically looks a bit like a jet engine, maybe on the back of a spaceship or uh, a rocket or something like that, which makes it look really cool. And again, this is already there. You just have to drag it into your scene, and that's it. Show you another one here. We have Dust Storm, which is literally a really large dust storm, which basically just comes all over your scene. It is limited though, as you can see when I zoom out, it is a square. However, you can easily tile these, and you'll see that once I immerse myself in it, it is reasonably realistic and can be used in our terrain tutorial to maybe, you know, create a little desert scene, give your scene a sort of Mad Max feel. Now, you won't be able to achieve the same level of realism, but it'll give you something. Then there's one called Dust Storm Mobile, which is just a downscaled version of Dust Storm, which plays in mobile browsers. I have to play my scene in order to do that, so I'm not going to. Then we have Explosion. I'm going to play my scene for you so you can see what that looks like. You know, what I'm saying is that you probably don't have to spend a lot of time developing these assets for yourself, because Unity does ship with a lot of them, as I've shown you with the water tutorial that I recently did. So if I play this, you'll notice there's an explosion on the screen and it looks really great. Really realistic, and well done to whoever made this. At the end of the day, it does the job and it looks extremely good. I'm going to show you the mobile explosion, which has less particle emitters attached to it, and that creates for a reasonable quality mobile explosion as well. So there we go. Slightly smaller, slightly less resolution. What I would like to show you guys here, if you check in the hierarchy or the scene explorer view on your left hand side, you'll notice that there are quite a few particle emitters attached to this one effect. And the reason for that is that in order to get the realistic particle effects that you want, you're going to have to spend some time creating maybe 3 or 4 layers to get it done really well. So then let's look at the fire. So here is fire complex, and I'm going to play it in the scene because it's just easier than showing you each and every emitter. So there you go. Now you guys can see that that is a reasonable fire or flame. Could be good for just a little flame that burns in the night, you know. Very nice. I like it. Then we have Fire Mobile, which again is just a downscaled version of Fire. There's a Fireworks emitter as well, which you can see as it shoots up, and yeah, which is pretty cool. I don't really see how I would ever use this, but I'm sure there would be a moment or a time for it in one of your games. Um, could be cool to celebrate high scores or whatever. And I'm not going to go over too many more. They have Steam, which is reasonable as well. So you'll just notice that it should basically look like steam coming out of a pipe, which it does, but I don't know, I have seen better. Tire burnouts just looks like a bit of smoke coming off the end of a tire, which looks pretty cool and could be very useful for you in your racing games, etc. Wildfire is a cool one because once you move it, it spreads, which is pretty cool because if you could make it spread more randomly, you should be able to get that wildfire effect. So yeah, you have a lot of freedom and you have a lot of capabilities in the particle system. However, what I'm going to show you guys today is how to do your own from scratch. So I'm going to switch back on our particle emitter here. There we go. She's looking very good. And now we're going to mess around with some of the settings. So first things first, you're going to have to go to your shape. Always start with your shape because that is basically the the base or the block where it all comes from. So if you select cone like this, you've got certain settings available to you. You'll notice that you can make a really sharp cone, and then if you zoom in a little bit, you should be able to drag it up and create all sorts of cool vortex effects, and that's all good and well. Now I'm going to show you a couple here. We have the sphere, which is very, very useful for explosions, all sorts of things, and we will be covering an explosion today. I'm going to show you guys how to set up an explosion with the particle system. Hemisphere, basically, if I zoom into this, set up the radius, you'll notice that it's half a sphere, which is pretty cool for dome-like effects, maybe a shield effect, or I don't know. I'm sure you'll find a use for it. Box is pretty self-explanatory, is literally just a box. The reason the particles continuously move up or in the normal direction is because we have a start speed set up, and I'm going to show you guys how to change that in a second once we start get going. Now mesh, you can actually select a mesh to base yourself off of. So that's pretty cool because if we select a sphere, you'll notice that we actually have the sphere there, even though the sphere isn't actually in the scene, which is very, very cool. So yeah, then we've got circle, which I like quite a lot. You can adjust the arc of the circle, which is pretty cool, gives you a lot of power. You can adjust obviously the radius, and yeah, it makes for really cool effects. And then one of my personal favorites is edge because it literally just emits on a straight line, and obviously you can resize this line. You can also rotate it in any way you want. So okay, let's get into this now, and I'm going to try and talk about as much as I can as we go along. Let's talk about the explosion particle emitter that we'll be creating today. It's going to be a very customized and stylized one at that, because again, we've seen that we have the realistic option if we want it in the prefabs there. So first things first, go set up your shape and go to sphere. Then we want a realistic sphere size. We're going to just say 1 for now and actually make it 0.1. We want a very central point of emission. That's great. Then we're going to go into our main particle systems options here, and then we're going to set our start lifetime to actually leave it at 5, and in our emission setting, sorry, we're going to set our rate to 0 and then add a burst. Okay, then your particle burst here, once it restarts, you'll notice that gives you the explosive effect that you're looking for. Even though it doesn't look really good at the moment, this is what we want. We've set up the amount of particles to 50. I think that's a reasonable amount, and that's it for emission. Now let's set up a material really quickly. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do that as well. Just right click in your project view here and create a new material. Call it explosive particles. Then we go to shader and we go down to particles additive and select a texture if you want. Usually a good idea. I'm selecting the light hard cookie because this is exactly the effect that I'm looking for, and drag it onto your particles and you should get the effect. So I'm getting a very harsh sort of, say, a harsh cut-off edge here, and that's why I'm going to set up the transparency to 36 on Y. So you'll see that that gives it a sort of translucency, which is what I want. Let's actually make it 50. That'll give me a nice effect. Okay, that's it. I don't change the, 9 out of 10, you don't have to change the color of the particle now. You can for minor alterations, but let your particle system handle it for the most part. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to go into your actual particle system at the top here, and we're going to say start speed needs to be between two constants. So next to start speed there's a little arrow, and click on that and then click random between two constants. You can select curves, which means we're quick at the beginning, slower towards the end, but I'm going to show you velocity over lifetime to do exactly that. So set one of your speeds to about 10 and the other one to 20, and then let it play through and see what it looks like. Okay, that's better, but it's not quite there yet, so make it 30 and 50. See what that looks like. That's pretty good, that's pretty good. Let's make one a little bit slower. In fact, let's make it 30 and 20. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Gives you a reasonable effect. But let's just try one more. 15 and 20 should give us enough of an effect to be seen as an explosion. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Might be a little slow though. But I'm going to show you how to do that again. Let's go to 25 and 35 and then set our lifetime to 3 and our duration to 5. That'll give it time to die out. Then your start size, you want again to switch to random between two curves, two constants, and you're going to set one size to 1.5 and one size to 0.75. That'll give you a range that they can be between and give you random particle sizes. I also feel like maybe we should set up the rate of particles here. So in our burst settings, we're going to set it up to 200. Let's see what that looks like. Yes, that's a very cool effect. I'm very happy with that. So, okay. Next thing that we want to do is we're going to say start color here. So, wait, okay, we'll get to color. We'll do the color now. Let's do, if you go down in your, basically your properties, I don't know, tabs down here, you can just scroll all the way down to size over lifetime. Okay, you've got size over speed as well, but I think size over lifetime is best. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click here on size, which will give you a curve. Now, what you want to do first is you've got 1 at the top, which means it's going to be largest at the start of your animation and much, much smaller at the end. Then you're going to drag that point down to a very small size so that it will actually scale all the particles down the further they go from the screen. Okay, so we'll set that down to 0, and that's exactly what we want. And then we're going to go to color over lifetime. Okay, there's again color over speed, and we want color over lifetime because this gives us the ability to change the different colors or stages of the colors. So we're going to select gradient, just keep it at that, and click on the actual box, and it'll give you a gradient editor here at the top. Now at the end, at the top 2 pins that you have here. Those are for alpha, so for the actual translucency of the color. And we're going to be setting our translucency point here at the end to 0. And you'll see that they fade out now. And then we're going to add another point by just clicking at the top bar there and drag it to about 85% roundabout and set the alpha all the way up. That way they'll stay constant and fade away after they've reached their target, so to speak. Okay, then the next thing is generally we'll have a bright orange in the beginning and then we'll fade into a much darker orangey red color. See what that looks like. There we go, we're already on the right track. And sometimes I add a little in-between stage as well, adds that little extra bit of, just that aesthetic look that you want. So yeah, maybe that's a bit orange. There we go. There we go, that looks pretty good to me. Yeah. So I think personally it needs to fade out a bit quicker, so I'm actually just going to drag the translucency point up a little bit, and there we go. So I like that. So you'll notice now that when I go out to my explosive angle, my view, whatever, we've got quite a nice little explosion going on. And all I'm going to do now for you guys is just drag it away from the camera a little bit so you guys can really see what it looks like. And there we go. So that looks pretty good. Okay, let's drag up a little bit and point down the particle system. I don't know. Okay, particle system. Just going to drag. I'm actually going to drag our. Somewhere here we have. Sorry, I just want to drag in a new skybox texture here because this one seems to be a little bright, and I know that maybe you guys might struggle to see this. So there we go. That's the explosive sort of particle emitter, and it looks reasonable right now. There's still a couple of things that we want to do to this. So okay, so the next thing we want to do is velocity over lifetime. So we want to increase the speed in the beginning and decrease it as the particles shoot away from the center point. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to go and say velocity over lifetime. Actually, no, it's force over lifetime. I think force works better. No, let's stick with velocity. Okay, velocity over lifetime. Okay, we're going to select curves, and then you'll see 3 bars pop up here. We have X, Y, and Z. So ours, basically, they need to move on X, Y, and Z. I need to actually think about this because, no, let's not do this because I just thought about it. We could use a color instead to do this. Okay, so let's set up the speed just a little bit as well. So we go 30 and 35. Yeah, I'm pretty much happy with that. It's a bit slow still. I think it is a bit slow. But again, I want you guys to see and experience and all of that. So this is a cool explosive effect if you have no gravity in your scene. However, we do have gravity in our scene, or let's say we do. You've got the gravity modifier right here. Now, if I set this to 1, let's just see. Okay, set this to 20. That might be a bit much. Okay, 5. So now what will happen is the explosion will actually explode and immediately drift quite a bit down from where it starts. So let's make it 2, and now you'll notice that the explosion sort of fall to the bottom there. Very slightly, but it's the little things that make it more realistic. Hmm. Just just trying to think. There was one more thing. Okay, let me show you a couple more things here, just for the sake of showing you. I'm pretty happy with this, and I'm kind of feeling like this is where I'll leave this particle system for an abstract explosion. Because once I get nice up and close to it, the explosion is quite intense, and it looks pretty cool. So down in the renderer setting, which is right at the bottom tab, we have render mode. This is an interesting setting. So I only figured this out a little while ago, and I must say that this is probably one of the most valuable things I've ever learned. So you have billboard, which basically tilts each and every particle towards the camera at all times, which means that all the particles are visible at all times. Then you have stretchable board, which will literally stretch the particles and basically rotate them, stretch them towards the camera so that they're facing camera still, but they give the sort of elongated effect that you want. You have a horizontal billboard, which will only billboard horizontally and not vertically, which is cool, but only for certain effects. Then you have vertical billboard, which will do obviously the same thing, but for the vertical instances. So that's all good and well. But now stretched billboard is the one that I want you guys to pay a bit of attention to. So if we set up camera, I think it's camera scale. Let's try here. Let's just try that. Nope, it's not camera scale. Speed scale, yeah. Okay, so length scale, set that to 1. That should make them round. Ish. And speed scale, I don't know. Okay, so there we go. That's a very crazy effect. Did not like that at all. We set this down to 0.1 and length scale 0.5. You should get almost, let's set this down to 0.1. Come on. Set this up the other day. I'm sorry, guys. That's still pretty weird effects that you can get up to here. 0.1 and 0.5. Let's see what that does. Or maybe the other way around. 0.5 and 0.1. Okay. I don't know. Okay, needless to say, this is not exactly the way I planned this would go. Let's just leave it at billboard and then let's call that a day for this particle emitter. What I do want to show you guys really quickly, and in order to do that, I'm just gonna go ahead and set up a different particle system. If I go to shape and I just change this to an edge, seeing as I particularly like that. Okay, and then I just take away, I just set this back to a reasonable 1 and 2. Then that should give us cool. And set that to 0. There we go. That gives us an effect of some note. We'll move this a little bit closer to the camera so you guys can see it down here. Okay, so now what I just want to show you guys really quickly, it's pretty cool. I'm going to switch off the burst emitter here. So I'm going to just take that away and set the rate up to 100. And I'll show you how to do the fire really quickly. So you'll notice I changed basically one setting and suddenly I have a reasonable flame. So again, this isn't the most realistic flame, but stylistically it looks really, really cool. Now, okay, so people say, okay, but then that's good, but when it gets dragged around, it sort of feels very static. So there's a very cool way to do this. In your main settings in particle system up here, you have simulation space, which you can switch from local to world. And then when I drag it, you'll notice that that gives me the actual flame in the way that it would be in, you know, in a world environment, which is pretty cool again for effects. In fact, I've tried once or twice where I've had a character which was very simply a blob like this that would move around the scene, and it makes for really cool effects. So yeah, if you guys like this, please do leave a comment below. Let me know what kind of particle systems you would like me to see to create. And yeah, I suppose I could also show you a couple of particle systems that I have used in games. I'm going to be doing a little showcase for you guys, or a demonstration of a new game that I'm working on called Atom, which will be coming up shortly after this video, I hope. And you guys will be able to see some of the particle effects that I have used similar to this one in that game that I am busy creating. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, I know it was short, I know that maybe my particle systems aren't that great. Again, you can go a little further and make yours look even better. If you guys did enjoy this though, please leave a comment, a like, and hit that subscribe button for me. We are at 166 subscribers, and I'm extremely happy to have all of you guys here watching the channel and interacting with me, you know, on a semi-daily basis. I enjoy making these tutorials. Please leave your suggestions below, and yeah, keep on learning.